Hi, everyone. My name is Yeong Kim. I am professor at the University of Texas at Austin and also the principal investigator of Project Dual, which is developmental understanding across languages. And as part of our Research Assistant Spotlight series, I am very pleased to spotlight Mehreen Ali, who is currently an undergraduate research assistant on my project. And Mehreen was selected by me as for the RA Spotlight series because of just the incredible work Mehreen has done in so many ways. When Mehreen first started on my project, I could tell right away she was just like really special because every time she signed up for a shift, she was always on time and she always followed the protocol, asking me to make sure we got everything covered. And then Mehreen expressed interest in kind of expanding our horizons, trying out some different teams. And then after that, I had Mehreen join our daily calls team, where she's in charge of our scheduling team, where she oversees about 14 research assistants, fellow undergraduate research assistants on the project. And we did have some hiccups in our project. This semester, we had quite a large influx of research assistants, and some of the scheduling protocols that we previously had just wasn't working anymore for the larger number of RAs we were trying to accommodate. So Mehreen and I were brainstorming about how do we accomplish, what we used to do with such ease, but now it was getting so much harder. And Mehreen was so creative with potential solutions that I could implement. And she was not only able to come up with this ideas, but also implement it. And I think it's just been incredible, the turnaround. I don't know, Mehreen, if you agree or not, but I just
Yes,
have been
absolutely.
yeah. So what impressed me about Medellin is, I would say, this is a concern people are bringing up. You're the team lead. Do you have some thoughts? And every time I would ask Medellin, she wasn't upset about it or anything. She just really would put her, mind together and figure out where are the bottlenecks that we have to overcome. And she came up with some great strategies. For example, our previous protocol, which now in hindsight doesn't make a lot of sense, where we would have the trainees sign up first, and then Mehreen's team would find the trainers who can do those trainings. And then we realized that is not the way to go. We have to first make sure that the trainers are available before we can find trainees for them. So honestly, that seems so intuitive, but it wasn't until Mehreen brought that to my attention did I realize, how backwards our protocol was. And it's that level of ingenuity, curiosity, and just, willingness to provide, do work in a teamwork to come up with just excellent solutions to help improve our workflow and of course improve the research that we do, because our goal is to get our research assistant trained to be able to collect data. So I was just so thankful to have Mehreen on my project this semester with all the incredibly creative solutions she came up with. And that's why I'm honoring Mehreen Ali today with our Spotlight series. So Mehreen, what are your thoughts about what I said and you being honored with this, RA Spotlight series?
I mean, thank you so much just for your kind words. There's so many RAs a part of this project who do just so much, and I look up to them, and it's such an honor to be considered one of them.
Thank you. You're doing you did so amazing. But I mean, Megan, I'm saying your work really stood out from almost all of them for me to select you for,
Thank you.
an RA Spotlight series. So of course we want to know more about you, who is Medellin behind the RA Spotlight series? Tell us more about where you're from, any fun fact you might want to share about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. In terms of fun facts, I really like to run. I've run since middle school. I did track in middle school. I did cross country in high school, and it's kind of a struggle now to keep up with it, but I really, really like running. Like I'm trying to do 5Ks or 10Ks. Maybe eventually I'll get to like a marathon, half marathon, something like that. But yeah,
And have you done the Longhorn run at UT, the Longhorn
I
run?
do, yes. I've done it every year. I do it. I have a running buddy that I do it with, and then I do it with my roommate. And so we've signed up for this year's run, and we even convinced our third friend to join us. She really
Oh,
does not want to, but we've got her
okay.
in.
Okay, awesome. And tell us more about your current major and your graduation date.
Yeah, so I'm studying finance at McCombs, and I'm expected to graduate in spring of 2027.
Okay. And what do you want to do after graduation?
So the ultimate goal is to be a physician, and I'm kind of tinkering with this idea, but obviously I'd have to go to medical school, but I kind of want to get an MBA as well.
Wow.
This is kind of more of like a recent discovery of mine because I was like, I'm kind of really liking the business school and the business aspect. So I think obviously overall I do want to be that physician, but at some point along the line I do also want to get an MBA with that.
Yeah. So I think a typical MBA student usually has about between 2 and 6 years of experience, before.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So then are you thinking you want to do the MBA before or after you finish like residency, fellowship, and all of that?
That is something that I'm still researching. I'm not too sure. I know there's some like MD, MBA programs where I can do them both at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, or I could go and I could like go into the business world, get some experience, do an MBA, then go to med school. Or I could be a traditional med student, go through all of that, and then maybe when I'm practicing, go and get an MBA. I'm not quite sure which one I want to do yet. I still have a lot of research to do for that.
Yeah. So for sure, medical degree and MBA, just don't know the timing of it all, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. So interesting because I'm finding that because, I've been a faculty member at UT Austin for 20 years. So when I started my career, having students interested in going to medical school was always there. Like, the majority of students who want to do research experience at UT Austin are wanting to go to medical school. But it's really only after in the past 5 years, am I seeing more business students also wanting to do medical school. So I'm not exactly sure what happened or what changed, but it's so fascinating to me to see the difference in the trend. And then for me, I also have a bachelor's degree in business administration. So I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with a psychology double major when I was an undergraduate student. And so for me, when I am working as a principal investigator of Project Dual and all my research projects, I am like so thankful of my business background because it just comes intuitive to me, like, figuring out marketing, figuring out like human resources and management, operations management, information technology. Like those are all the different kinds of core courses that you have to take as an undergraduate student in business, right? But for the
Yes,
typical faculty member, we get trained in the science, but not the business aspect of running the research project. So some of my colleagues are always like, how do you know how to do all that? And how do you know to like figure out how to set up RedCap and set up the databases you need? And that's because my business undergraduate um, specialty was information systems. So my whole undergraduate curriculum, not only was I doing psychology and learning the science of studying humans, but also learning the science of how to manage data, create databases. And I can't even imagine doing the work I do today without that business background and how much I value it because most of my colleagues don't have that. And I think you're picking up on that you're seeing that when you become a physician, you are seeing the value that McCombs training is going to come in. Because I finished my bachelor's degree over 30 years from now, and I'm more thankful now than ever before about how important that business training was in enabling me to achieve the level of success that I want to achieve in my career.
that was part of the reason why I chose to go into business because when I first like decided I wanted to go into medicine, I was shadowing different like physicians and like healthcare workers, and like one of the things that they've always said is they don't teach us the business side of medicine, and that's like the number one thing that I've heard because I always ask whoever I shadow like, oh, what's the number one piece of advice you have for me or like something like that, and they always tell me that. And then at the same time, I'm learning more about like how medicine is changing. And
Mm.
the entire structure of medicine is changing now. It's going from private practices to more private equity, and like hospitals are now employing doctors, and it just the business structure of it is changing. So I think it'd be very beneficial for me to get that business degree. And also like I've just seen too, like, there's like the technical stuff that I'm learning from my business degree, but I'm also learning like soft skills, like how to communicate and how to, write resumes, and just like all of these like smaller stuff that you might not think to learn, but they teach you. And so I'm really grateful for that.
So you're saying that the 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 traditional model of like a physician setting up their practice is kind of going away and now moving to private equity?
So how it was explained to me was that um, doctors are being offered to essentially like not worry about the business side of medicine, and people will come in who are like learn how to do that, and they'll run all of that for the doctors, and then the doctors just practice how they were practicing, and so it kind of like takes away that element for them and makes it easier. And so I think because there's like two different people, like there's a business side and then there's the physician side, it'd be good
Mhm.
that I knew both of them. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're saying the entrepreneurial aspect of being a physician is kind of getting now farmed out to other people so that they just
Yes.
focus
Yeah.
on just what they've been trained to do.
Yes.
Okay, that's so interesting. That makes it less fun. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah.
And you have a lot of entrepreneurial skill set or entrepreneurial ambition, then that you're kind of saying that's kind of going away, and it's like a whole different sector that's doing that, you know?
Well,
And
I mean,
you
that's why I am going into business because I can then kind of deal with that.
can connect the two. I see, I see.
Yeah.
So then the other thing I'm curious about is, we're talking about the value of getting a business degree, right? But then the reality is, as you know, Mehreen, it is so hard to get into McCombs. It's one of the most competitive majors on campus.
Absolutely.
So, so what advice would you have for aspiring McCombs students? But, if they don't get admitted as a freshman, many of them are trying to transfer into McCombs, but there's so limited spots. I've known students at UT Austin where they aspired to transfer to McCombs, and many of them were successful, but then just as many students who are not successful because it's so competitive. So then what advice would you have for students who, are aspiring, but it doesn't look realistic anymore? Like, what would your advice
Right.
be for students?
Right. Absolutely. I think that, overall it's hard. I will say that. But I don't think it's the only opportunity you have. Like I think you could be successful anywhere you go. Specifically for McCombs, though, I would say to do your research on McCombs. What I did was I actually looked up the McCombs resume, and I like kind of gave aspects of the resume that they wanted in my own. I didn't
Mhm.
format it the way I probably should have, which I learned later on. But I also like research different interview techniques that McCombs like offers, and if you're already showing that you're providing those like I can't think of the word, but if you're already providing like what they're expecting to teach you, then they might be more prone to accept you. You know what I mean?
I see. So I do always have every semester a student who's interested in transferring to McCombs, who is currently a UT Austin student. What do you have some advice on, other than of course getting strong grades? Do you have some thoughts on like what else they should be doing to be a successful transfer applicant within UT Austin?
Establishing connections and like networking, because just because you're not in McCombs doesn't mean that you can't talk to professors, you can't, apply for internships or business groups, programs, stuff like that. And once you start talking with these people, they can actually offer a lot of insight into like getting it or like transferring into McCombs. I've learned a lot from professors that I've talked to, stuff that I had no idea, just to like try and get into a course next semester. So I can't imagine what they can offer just to like transfer into McCombs.
I see. So then I also noticed that McCombs offer these minors what are your thoughts on doing a minor if you can't get into the major along with another
I
degree at
think I think that's an amazing idea because I was contemplating doing a minor as well.
Oh, what
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what do you want to
In
do your
in
minor?
business, I was thinking
Oh,
of doing it in business and maybe doing like a science major,
mm,
because I didn't think I was going to get into McCombs. But I really think a minor could be very beneficial. Like I think it could be almost as good as getting a major if you can't get into McCombs.
I see. So then why did you decide doing the business major uh with, get was a better fit for you because it sounded like you were also considering something else and possibly minoring in combs.
Right. So, I mean, my number one goal was to do a major in business.
Oh, okay.
I just
So
hadn't
when you
I hadn't thought that I would get in. And so I was like, oh, I could major in like my second choice and then minor in business to still get that knowledge.
oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit and ask you a little bit more about like the research you're doing on my project. I'm curious to know like what got you interested in doing research to begin with, and then what made you decide my project? Because almost every tenure track faculty at UT, like myself, have a research project. So why did you choose my project over all these other amazing projects on campus?
Yeah, so I was a freshman or a sophomore, I believe. And I had a friend who was a senior and she was really like a mentor to me. She helped me construct like a whole 4-year plan, like all of that. She was also actually a business and medicine, so she was wonderful. And a really core part of her was like her research that she was a part of. She loved doing it, and she had told me that I should do research, and she had very strongly said that I should only do it if I am passionate in it, because otherwise it's just gonna be miserable because you spend so much time on it, and you shouldn't do something that you're not enjoying. And so I was researching all different ones, and I do really appreciate the other types of research, like working with cells and like microbiology and like kind of like that scientific stuff there. But I found the most interest in like your project because I mean, for one, it really resonated with the like I really resonated with the focus, but also I could see kind of like my potential impact being direct with like within such a large group. And since it's working with like actual participants, it leads to me to feel like more of a sense of fulfillment,
Mhm.
like a direct sense of fulfillment. And I've been looking at your project, and I was planning on applying, but it was funny because in one of my classes they had mentioned the project, and so I applied that day. I took it as my push that I should just apply.
That it was a sign somehow.
Yes, yes.
So then I think what you're saying is if you join a lab that works on cells, you're not really seeing that human or someone like behind that cell kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like that is for me specifically. I know people who love working on the cells and love seeing the impact on the world. But
Mm.
for me specifically, I really like seeing the person and like seeing how I can help the person. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So then can you say more about what you do as an RAMI project? And also if there's one word or sentence to describe your experience in Project Dual so far.
Yeah, so what I do as a RA is I'm on a team that basically manages the daily calls team, and they work directly with participants and surveys, stuff like that, and we essentially make sure that they fill up those shifts so the participants are getting what they signed up for. And then specifically, I'm a lead for my team, and I essentially like manage the managers. Like I train new RAs who are joining this team. I work with the other co-leads. We make sure that we're all functioning smoothly. And essentially, I just make sure that these shifts get filled up so these participants can work with that.
Mhm.
And
Sounds
then
good.
you asked for one word, right?
Yeah, one word or sentence
Yeah,
to describe your experience.
I think um, adapting would be a good word.
Mm.
Like I think maybe there's like I worked for nearly my whole time on the project as like a lead for my team, and it's so different now than what it was then.
Mhm.
But it's like it's better, I would say. It's more efficient, it's functional, and like I just feel like we're constantly learning and we're improving. And you know, it is constantly moving, but it's always towards like a better system. And so
Mm.
I just think it's like really fun to kind of be on the movement and like watch it move.
So what really surprised me is, you know how I would send you these messages saying, "Oh, Mehreen, this research assistant said this, and she's expressing this concern." And then I would send you another message saying, "Someone else is saying this." And what I was so impressed by is how positive your outlook was. Like sometimes people feel so defeated, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like they're saying this. But then you always have such a positive outlook and you always seem to want to come to a solution to that concern. And I was so impressed with how you dealt with people, and I'm like, you would be like the perfect manager at some company. Like you
Thank
have like
you.
such an even kill, like you knew how to address their concern. But I'm like, I have no idea how you develop these skills, of course, but I just was so impressed how you dealt with it and not feel so offended, but like just figuring out a solution. And I'm just so curious, like, how do it just feels like it's so mature the way you handle such critiques. So I'm curious, like, where do you develop that? And like, how do you teach other people to do that? you know?
Absolutely. I think I have to give this one to my parents because they've always taught me that, you know, any job I have, like, you know, whether it's doing yard work outside or it's like an actual professional job, I should separate the work that I'm doing from like the emotions I have.
Um,
So like me getting critiqued is not necessarily an attack on my character or an attack on who I am. It's more so a critique on the work I'm doing. And so I feel like that critique is only just helping me improve and be a better like team player and stuff. You know, it'd be different if they're going around saying like you suck as a person, but they're not saying that. I feel like I'm able to kind of separate that.
Yeah. Wow, your parents did an incredible job. Because every time I get a response back from you, I'm like, wow, that's so professional.
Thank
And
you.
you know, you have to tell your parents they did such a great
I
job.
will, don't worry.
So some other things I'm curious about is like, what are some favorite parts of being in my project? Any new skills you've developed? If there's anything you think people don't know about the project you want to talk about.
Yeah, so my favorite part, I think, is all of the connections. Because I've met so many new different people. Like I don't think I've met anybody who's similar to the other. And
Oh,
I've actually
really?
become friends with a lot of them.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
like I'm still in contact with RAs who like aren't in my team anymore, or like they've graduated already or they've left the team. And you know, because we're all in different years in college. They're all in different stages of life. And so like they've helped mentor me in terms of like stuff outside the project.
Mhm.
And I really just think that Project Dual just offers such a unique experience in meeting so many new and different people.
Interesting. So what I just want to piggyback on that because when we were doing home visits to go to families' homes to collect data, a lot of the RAs would drive together, to the home and they'd become really good friends. And it's so interesting because then like years later, I'll hear from them and say, "Oh yeah, that person's now getting married and we went to their wedding." And I'm like, wow, it's just so gratifying to see that the project I created these friendships that feels like lifetime friendships for some students.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. It's like, you know,
Yes.
we're all in this together. We all have this shared experience. It's so easy to just like become friends with them.
Yeah. So then, some other questions I have are like, what do you think Project Dual has taught you? What it may mean to you? And are there any changes you see in yourself before and after being an RA on my project?
Right. I think what I've learned, like a skill I've learned, I've learned a lot of skills, but I think one of them is like time management. Because I have so many different shifts, where it's like just being like a regular RA on my team versus like being a lead and like all of the different meetings. I have a Google Calendar that I like organize all of that. And then I guess like a facet of that is like I've learned like how to manage different responsibilities within a team, like including like training new RAs and like helping maintain some semblance of consistency in our procedures while also like adapting to function better. But one of like the biggest skills I think I've developed is learning how to like balance the technical side of research with like the human side, because
Mhm.
we're wanting to make sure that these RAs are feeling comfortable and supported while we're also working effectively, and we're like accomplishing everything that is required. And I think it's like such an interesting balance, and I've really gotten to learn the nuances of it through this project.
Interesting. So you talked about how you saw, the value of the research and how you're seeing what research really is. And I'm curious, has that experience changed your perspective on, being a student at UT or not really?
I mean, yeah, like I feel like I've learned that like I was always kind of interested in research, but I didn't fully understand how much goes into it. Like I didn't understand it's a lot more than just like kind of nitty-gritty collecting data and like reporting on it. It's there's a lot more coordination and teamwork that goes into like running a study. And then, since becoming an RA and now like helping mentor others, I've gained a much deeper appreciation for the process. Like I've become confident communicating, organizing, and like overall just like creating a collaborative environment. And I think like another aspect of that is I'm also able to connect it to what I'm learning in class as well.
Can you
Um,
say in what way?
yeah, like I feel like my experience at UT has just become enriched in total, because I like every semester I've taken a class where it's almost directly applied to Project Dual. Like one class I had to take was business communication, where we learned, how can we agree and disagree and like pitch ideas and stuff like that. Another class I took was organizational behavior, and that's like the psychology of working in teams and working in groups, and how we should have healthy conflict and stuff like that. And then there's operations management, like bottlenecks and like restructuring stuff. And so I feel like I would learn the theoretical, and then I would go and clock into my shift or join a meeting and then see it in real life. And so I really got this like unique experience of just like really enriching my understanding of it all.
Wow, I'm so happy to hear that. It's almost like you learn the theory in class and then you see it in action. So it almost like cements the information
Exactly.
more. Wow, that's so great. And you probably never even imagined you would get that out of a research project,
Not at
right?
all, no.
Wow, that's so cool. But I mean, one thing that always impresses me is how responsive you are. Whenever I send you a message, you always respond so promptly. But then what I don't understand is how you could do it because you do so many other activities. Like, for example, you're working as a medical assistant at Heart Center of North Texas. You're also an intern at Health Science Center at University of North Texas. And I know you probably do that when you're home in Fort Worth. But not only that, you are, doing varsity tutors, you're working as a teaching assistant for a class. And then you do so much like leadership and other activities like reading ACEs, Tarrant Area Food Bank, I-9 Sports as a soccer coach, running club as an active member. I just don't understand how you can get everything done so well. And of course, not only that, I mean, you're always meeting and exceeding expectations on my project, doing incredibly well as a business student. I just don't understand how this is even possible. So I just
Thank
want to hear
you.
your thoughts on like, do you think this is like, what's your secret? What's your advice? Like, tell us how you do this.
I mean, honestly, I truly just have the mentality of like I have the audacity to ask, I guess. And so that's number one, how I'm able to get a lot of these opportunities. And then I have a principle of like I will always respond, and it won't necessarily mean I'll give an answer necessarily, but I'll be like I'll acknowledge that I've seen your message and I will get back to you once like I have a proper answer. And I just really think that communication is the key to the success of everything I do. Because like I take, you know, a couple times a day where I check my email, I check my Teams, I respond to everybody I need to respond to. Usually it doesn't take more, like if I need to respond to somebody, it doesn't take more than like 2 minutes, maybe three. Um, and like I communicate, you know, if I'm behind on something or if I'm struggling, like I'm able to give that communication. And I feel like it reflects then, like, you know, I might be struggling, I might be doing whatever, but because I'm communicating it, it doesn't show that I am struggling necessarily. Like I feel like it would look very different if I just started ghosting you, because I was doing all of my other stuff versus like, you know, if I message you and I was like, oh, I will get that to you as soon as I can, like, you know, like, and I give you like an estimated day or time of when I can do that.
I love that. Because to be honest, a lot of students do just ghost me. So I do appreciate the fact that you let me know if you need more time. But the fact that you just acknowledge that you saw my message, it really does help go a long ways to show your profession.
Absolutely.
You know, it's okay if you can't get to it. Just letting me know you saw it and that you will give me a response at a later time. I would appreciate that just rather than ghosting any day, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then, as we're wrapping up our interview, I'm curious to know, is there anything else you wanted to say you haven't so far, or is there any advice you may have for future research assistants or future Longhorns, or just advice in general?
I again, I'll say it. I really think communication is that key. Like, I tell my RAs and my team, like, ask me questions. Doesn't matter what time. Like, if you have a shift and you don't know, ask me, because you know I don't know that I need to help you if you don't tell me. So, you know, I tell everybody just ask like questions, communicate. Everybody on the project is so supportive too. Like I don't think I've met anybody who's like upset that they have to answer a question. So that's like one thing. And I also wanted to thank you. Like you've been such a wonderful mentor for me. I don't think I would have learned everything I have without you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much.
Of
I
course,
mean, I
yeah.
can't run my project without outstanding students like you. So I'm just feel so thankful that I have the opportunity to work with talented students like yourself running my project.
Thank you.
So that wraps up our research assistant spotlight series for this month with Mehreen Ali, our star research assistant for the month. Thank you everyone for listening.